Hey, this is Shubham Bibave. I have a video to share about Robert Kiyosaki, which he gave speech in our business summit. So hope it finds it helpful for you all. Before that, just to mention, we have introduced a new service, which is a negotiation service. It is basically for the people who are buying real estate flats. We negotiate on their behalf so that we to seal the deal in the lowest price possible in the current market situation so that they don't get ripped off by the real estate developers. Rest for sure, enjoy the video. Hope it finds you helpful.
Hello, this is Robert Kiyosaki, and I am probably best known for this book here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and this board game here, The Cash Flow Game. And I'm very excited to be talking to the Super Growth Summit and Success Guyane because this is a very important time for your financial education. So before I begin, let's get a little bit of my background. The story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is that my rich dad was a man without any education at all because his father died when he was 13 and he took over the family business. And my rich dad, and my poor dad was my dad, and he was a PhD, went to Stanford, Northwestern, University of Chicago, very smart man. But as you know, our school system teaches us nothing about money. So although my poor dad was highly educated, he was poor. Whereas my rich dad was a man with no education, but he learned about money in the real world, the school of hard knocks. So that's the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But the reason I'm happy to be talking to the Super Growth Summit and Success Guyane is because this is a very important date here. And most of you probably weren't even born then. But this now comes up to the it's the 50th anniversary of this date. And the reason this date is so important is simply because what happened on August 15th, 1971 was President Richard Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard. And when that happened, the whole world went into turmoil because up until this date, the US dollar was as good as gold. So way back when, during World War II, the United States promised the world the US dollar would be backed by gold. So what happened on this date is President Nixon broke his promise. And now this is the 50th anniversary and the world is in massive turmoil. So it's really a good time if you have financial education, but it's really a bad time if you don't. So let me tell you where I was about this date here. In January of 1972, I was flying off an aircraft carrier, the USS Okinawa in the South China Sea. And I was flying a helicopter gunship, the Huey gunship. And what we did, we escort troop transports into the combat zone. So here I'm fighting in Vietnam and all this stuff. And this happens, and then my rich dad, so in 1970, this was January 1972, 6 months after this happened, my rich dad writes me a letter and says, hey, watch out, the world's gonna change. Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And here we are 50 years later, and everything's in chaos right now, simply because we don't know what's real money, what's fake money, and all this. So the good news is, as I was flying in Vietnam, I took a little side detour and I went to buy some gold. So I bought my first gold, 50 years ago, approximately 50 years ago. And because gold is real money, I call gold and silver God's money. And the reason gold and silver are God's money is very simply because God put it here. Gold was here when the earth was formed, silver was here when the earth was formed. And today we have Bitcoin and crypto. And the main reason we have Bitcoin and crypto, gold and silver, is because of this date here. In August 15, 1971, 50 years ago, the US dollar became fake. So that's why I wrote this book in 1997, and my wife and I created this cash flow board game in 1996, because if you cannot trust your money, you must trust your financial education. So what I'm going to do for the next about 20 minutes is give you a big overview on what you can do to improve your financial education to not get wiped out, because I think the world's in serious trouble today. The rich will obviously get richer, which is good, but poverty is going to increase throughout the world as the dollar gets worse and worse. So I'll just give you a few lessons from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So, if you cannot trust the dollar, then what you have to do is trust your knowledge. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad is very simply about accounting. Very, very simple. You know, it's what happens for most people is they go to school and they get a job, and the money comes in this way, and the first expense is taxes. So the biggest mistake that happens in our school system is they tell you to go to school and get a job, work hard. But what happens is your cash flows out. Again, the name of the game is cash flow. So the name of the game, if you want to be rich, is how do you control this here? How do you control cash flow? And without financial education, most people can't control it. So what happens in your country, my country, because your country was English as mine, as the US and Hawaii, where I grew up and all this. So what they tell you to do is buy a house because your house is an asset. But if you look at how the cash flows, it goes in here and it goes out through what's called a mortgage, and it goes out this way. So everything they teach you in school keeps you poor. Go to school, get a job, you pay taxes. This goes to the government, and this goes to the bank. That's why it's hard to get rich if you go to school, get a job, work hard, and buy a house. And then they tell you to do this. You have, in America, it's called a 401k or a retirement plan. And they say your retirement plan's an asset. It's not an asset, because what happens is the money comes in, goes here, and this goes to Wall Street or High Street or wherever it goes to. So our financial education was designed to keep you poor. So again, this is the basics. This is a financial statement, income statement, balance sheet. This is cash flow here. And that's what makes you rich. Can you control cash flow? So financial literacy simply says that an asset, this is my rich dad, puts money in your pocket. And a liability takes money from your pocket. You don't have to go to college to know that. You know, it's really easy. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money from your pocket. That's financial literacy. The definition of two words: asset, liability, income and expense, cash flow. That's all it is. So what I decided to do when I came back from Vietnam is there's 4 basic asset classes. Number 1 is a business. The richest people on earth own businesses. So I came back from Vietnam. I was a pilot. I could have got a job flying for the airlines, but I'd be here. So I started businesses. Next asset is real estate. And people think, well, isn't your house? No, I'm talking about real estate that puts money in your pocket. Your house takes money from your pocket. So I own about 8,000 rental properties. I have a number of businesses. Then you have paper assets, such as stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. I don't touch them. You can. I don't like them because I don't trust Wall Street. But you should invest them if you like them. And then you have commodities. And commodities are like gold, silver, Bitcoin, oil. I have a lot of oil wells. So anyway, that's basic financial education. But one of the biggest things you have to consider here is this word here, tax. And so everything I'm doing here is to wipe out tax. That's financial education. So legally, I make a lot of money, but because I have real assets, I don't pay any tax. You can too, because the Indian legal system is based on English common law. It's all the same as Mother England. So real financial education must include tax. So I own businesses, I own real estate, I own paper and commodities. Now the trick with real estate is I don't have to use my own money because I use debt. So I use debt to buy my real estate, and it puts money in my pocket, and I pay no tax. That's financial education, legally. But you have to study. So that's why I have the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and we created this cash flow game so that you can train your mind to think like a rich person. Think like somebody who thinks this is important versus somebody who wants job security. Very big differences there. So that's really the basic. This is called fundamentals. When you look at the cash flow game, this is the real game here. When you're playing the cash flow game, you have got to write the numbers into your hands. You're looking at deals, doing it one at a time. You're exercising your brain. You're actually putting the numbers in. So you're getting smarter and smarter the more you play the game. But best of all, when you play the game, you're playing with fake money, play money. And you can make all the mistakes you like. And when you make mistakes, you get smarter if you learn from them. But in school, you make mistakes, they punish you. That's why school teachers aren't rich, because they think mistakes are bad. But in the real world, mistakes, if you learn from your mistakes, you get richer and smarter. But in school, mistakes mean you're stupid. So that's why poor dad was poor and rich dad was rich. My poor dad thought mistakes made you stupid, and my rich dad knew mistakes made you smarter. Very big differences there. So that's that game there. Now here is book number 2. It's called The Cash Flow Quadrant. So this here is the book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. This is another fundamental thing to learn because it affects your brain here. Because whether you're rich or poor is this. When people talk about how does a person get rich, well, it's between this ear and this ear. It's called your brain. And what you put in there will make you rich or poor. So the reason the cash flow quadrant is so This is the quadrant. E stands for employee. So my poor dad always said to me, go to school and get a job. Well, that's an employee. When I came back from Vietnam, I was a pilot, and my poor dad says, oh, now get a job with the airlines. I didn't want to be an employee. That's nothing right or wrong with it. I just didn't want to be one. And S stands for specialist or smart person or a small business owner. So if you're smart, that's what it stands for. So my dad said, come here and become a pilot. And my mom says, why don't you become a doctor? I said, Mom, doctors are smart. And I was really stupid in school. She goes, I guess you want to be a doctor. So my mom and dad agreed I'm best on this side here. And this stands for big business. So this here is 500 employees or more. So my goal was, that's what I want to do. And this stands for inside. These guys invest from the outside. They buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. These guys invest from the inside. The big difference here is, again, it goes to tax. And these guys here, this is all over the world. Employees generally pay 40% of their income in tax. The self-employed or small business or the doctor or lawyer, they pay approximately 60%. So what's happening to people today is, let's say they say, okay, I don't like being an employee, I'm gonna start my own business. They move to the S quadrant and they pay higher taxes. So they start a small business, could be a pizza shop or a chicken shop or something, and they pay higher taxes. So what the Rich Dad Company does is, if you want to go to school, this is what you learn here. Rich Dad is on this side here. So our education, and nothing right or wrong, if you want to be here, that's good. I mean, I'm happy for you. But I wanted to come over here in 1974, after I returned from Vietnam. I didn't want to fly for the airlines, and I didn't want to be a doctor, so I wanted to learn this. So the first thing I had to do was I got a job with the Xerox Corporation, because the number one skill of an entrepreneur is ability to sell. And I couldn't sell. So I spent 4 years at Xerox learning how to sell. At the same time, I was doing small real estate deals. I was putting my own deals together. I was finding the property, doing the financing, doing the management of it and all this. So I was learning to be on the inside here. And that's the difference. The reason I make so much money today is because in 1974, I moved over to this side and I didn't stay on this side. So let me show you how so you can do the same. What this here is kind of interesting is that what makes these guys rich is the word network. So back in the 70s, it was called network marketing, direct marketing. Bitcoin makes people rich because it's a network. And what I created as a B is I have a network all over the world of booksellers and businesses and all this. So these guys have jobs, and these guys build networks, and these guys invest in networks. Those are big differences there. So when you talk to a guy like Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all times, he doesn't invest this way. These are called startups. He doesn't invest in startups. When Buffett invests, he invests in a word called brands. So his biggest companies are Coca-Cola and Gillette. He invests in brands. So when I was about 27 years old, I said, I'm going to move over here, and one of my goals was to build a brand. And today, Rich Dad is a global brand. So those are some of the mindset differences in all this. And you can stay over here, you can say, oh, I just want job security. What these guys say, I want to do it by myself. I have to be the smartest in my business. So most doctors are the smartest. The guy who owns the pizza shop is the smartest. These are the smart guys. But the capitalists are over on this side here. So today, when you're watching this at the Super Growth Summit, you're asking yourself, where do I want to be? In 5 years from now, do I want to be here, or do I want to be here? It's not right or wrong. I'm not saying one is good or bad. It's what is most attractive to you. This was really attractive. It was tough. It was harder. I could have flown for the airlines. It'd been a lot easier. But this was the hardest route. So that's one of the reasons I took the hard route. And my wife Kim and I made it over here. And it took us 10 years. And in 10 years, we're financially free. We never had to work again. So it took 10 years, hard work. And today we just keep doing the same old thing. So if you want job security, invest in the stock market, you're over here. You want the challenges, you come over here. This is extremely hard. You have to study constantly. It's very, very different business. So in closing, I'll just show you how this all works together. So let me put it all together for you. Again, this is a financial statement. That's what this book's about. Okay. Again, the word is cash flow. Instead of becoming an employee or like an airline pilot or becoming a doctor, all I do today is I build businesses and I buy real estate. I don't invest in stocks or paper. I don't trust Wall Street. I don't save money because I don't trust the banks. So I don't have any of this. And what I have is gold, so I don't save dollars, I save gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And that's what I do. So what happens is the cash flows up this way. I don't have a job. So let's say the money comes in here. And the question is, how do I eliminate the tax? That's what capitalists do. I don't want to pay the tax. So what happens is, let's say I make $1 million here. So what I do is I bring the $1 million here and I borrow $4 million. So I use debt, so business, and this comes into real estate here. So my real estate steps up in basis of 5 million. So I make $1 million here because I don't want to pay tax. I immediately borrow 4 more million, comes over here, 5 million. And then it's called, I appreciate, depreciate, and amortize this property here, and that wipes out the tax. This is legal. You can do it in your country, in my country. So basically, that's what a capitalist like me does. This is what we teach at Rich Dad. If you want to play the stock market, that's really not us. I mean, it's fine. You can learn stuff. Some people teach it for us. But this is really what I do. I start businesses. The money comes here. When I make the money, I have to borrow money because in 1971, the dollar became debt. That jumps this up to $5 million property. And the big word in taxes is a thing called depreciation. This depreciation wipes that out. And that's called capitalism, ladies and gentlemen. So basically, that's what happened August 1971, 50 years ago, is the US dollar became fake and it became debt plus taxes. And so the reason I do what I do is because I use debt and taxes to get richer. For people on this side, debt and taxes makes them poor. So anyway, I trust that makes it as simple as possible. You can discuss it amongst yourselves. My idea is to get you to think on this side. Schools want you to think on this side. So congratulations for being part of the Super Growth Summit. And I want to thank Success Guyane for inviting me to speak to you. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.